Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Carl. I'm a recovery coach here at Capital Recovery Center. And this is our all recovery meeting for the day. And our article I have here is Live with Purpose by Breaking Out of Your Self-Made Prison. And this article is by drpatwilliams.com. So you like this article, you can go to drpatwilliams.com. It says, do you feel like you're living in a prison? Sometimes one that you built yourself. You're not alone. As a coach, I've met with people every day who have created stories about their past and then their future based on feelings of shame, guilt, and self-doubt. I've also met people who hide away their gifts, keeping them under lock and key. They are afraid to share their strengths and vision for fear of rejection. You want to live with purpose and help others do the same, but the boundaries you've created stop you from following through. It doesn't have to be like that. That's playing a jailbreak. And this is like part of my story, right? It's like fear of the future and basing ourselves from shame, guilt, and self-doubt. That kept me from going forward in life for many, many years. And we talk about making our own self-made prisons in recovery, because I know for me, I've created my own chaos and conflict with the world and the people around me. Like it was, yeah, things happened and things were said and done to me. It happens to everybody, but like ultimately it was my own doing, the way I was living and the way I was reacting. And of course, the major symptom of using drugs and alcohol, I was just created this vicious circle of the same thing over and over again. And I was trapped in this obsession, compulsion, and I just couldn't break free from uh, my self-made prisons, like we talk about. I was stuck, and I was lost, confused, and I was like that for many, many years until like I really, first and foremost, I put the drugs and alcohol down. And like for me, I was just talking about this the other day. Like if I just came into recovery and just focused on the major symptom, drugs and alcohol, like yes, that's the ultimately the main goal in early recovery is getting clean and sober and putting that stuff down. But then like the emotions and feelings and the bad behaviors and my thought process, my perception of the world, and the perception of myself, and the limitations I put on myself. And it talks about hiding our gifts. Like I didn't think I was like a hard worker or, loving and caring and a productive member of society and all that stuff. Like I didn't think I was, I had them assets. And like since I've been in recovery, like I am, trustworthy. I'm honest. I'm open and I'm willing, and like people can count on me and rely on me. And I'm a hard worker, which I never thought I would be, and I always put limitations on myself. Let's see here. It says change is inevitable. Progress is optional. Throughout your lifetime, change is going to happen. Sometimes you'll choose to change, other times the change will choose you. Either way, you're going to experience some discomfort. Your values will be challenged. Your knowledge will be tested. Your confidence will be shaken. The change will be unsettling. I want you to think of it this way. So each change is an opportunity to learn and grow. So if the change is going to happen anyways, what path will you choose when it comes along? Yeah, we can change for the worse or we can change for the good, but change is going to happen. um, and like I had to, first and foremost, stop using, but like I had to work on my character defects. I had to like work on my perception, my thought process, and the way I behaved, and the way I treated myself, and the way I treated others. I had to stop all these bad behaviors. Um, So like I had to change a lot, and it's just a process. It just doesn't happen overnight. But change is going to happen, and it can be unsettling, he says, and like, we're going to be shaken. We're going to be put, not to the test, but like, there's going to be things, obstacles in our way where we can take, unsettling and setbacks and discomfort. We can use that for room for change and room for growth. We can take them opportunities and take a lesson from it and like change and grow from it instead of like staying stuck until like self pity, right? Resentment, fear, anger. We talk about the triangle of obsession, and we get locked and loaded in that. We have to break out of that and like, take each opportunity to like grow from it, and like, I know for me, in active addiction, I chose to do all the opposite. I always stayed in and stuck in like the opposite, the negativity. And, I have a choice today to change and grow and make a choice that like any obstacle comes my way, I don't let it hold me down. I can learn from it. Says today never hands me the same thing twice. And I believe that for most everyone else, life is also a mixture of unsolved problems, ambitious victories, and vague defeat, with very few moments of clear peace. My struggle with today is worthwhile, but it is a struggle nonetheless, and one I will never finish. Says embrace the uncertainty. Let's check this out. So if you want to live with purpose, you have to embrace the uncertainty. All too often, our discomfort around admitting we don't know exactly what to do in a given moment, especially as therapists and coaches and doctors and stuff like that, it prevents us from being authentic, hijacked by our own or our Amy, I don't know what that word is. We go into the fight or flight. We will also talk about that big time recovery. We fight or flight mode when we're on charted territory, and most often our responses do more harm than good. Yeah, that fight or flight, man. It's like we're gonna put up a fight or we just run away, and that's just like how I behaved in an active addiction. And we also can take that and into recovery, but like today I have some awareness and I have some knowledge of who I am, and I start to change and grow and find out and uncover things about myself, and I start to notice it. I start to see uh, some more clarity of my defects and my assets and who I want to be and who I don't want to be. Um, that's just the most beautiful thing that you can do for yourself in recovery is find out who you are, and who you want to be or who you don't want to be. Because I was lost and confused for many, many years. Like we talk about being the chameleon in active addiction. Like I can adapt to all types of situations, and I can get into. I can. There's a saying, I get in where I fit in, right? And like it's like survival mode. That was for me. Like I can I can get into this crowd, and that got me into a lot of trouble. It can be an asset, but it can be a defect. All depends on uh, how you use it. But today, like I can use it as a good thing and like have more compassion and understanding for others because I've been there, or if I didn't been there, I can still give them some support and like give some understanding, some advice, and that's what makes us. I want to say unique, but it makes us more relatable when we've been through a lot of stuff and people that I help were my loved ones and the people I interact with. Some were in recovery, some were struggling, some were not. But like I live a few lives, so um, just being there for somebody and can relate, that can help strengthen a lot of relationships. And like it talks about, um, we talked about the fight or flight, and I've learned that like when I'm in that mode, like I can take a step back and really, do a self-assessment and reflect on like, well, am I going to put up a fight right now? I knew that doesn't cause any harm. I mean, I knew that caused harm, or am I going to the flight mode? Now also that comes with avoidance, and that can be also harmful. It says, remember while it's healthy to reveal your true self. Choosing the right place, time, and audience is so important. If you want to be your best self with your friends, family, peers, and clients, it's imperative that you find someone who can help you navigate your own comfortable journeys. Yeah, so we need help, right? So like life gets uncomfortable, we get in some situations, things happen, but I can have people in my life to like help me, and that's through family, friends, people in recovery, co-workers, and I've learned from others what to do, and I learned from others what not to do. But I do have a solid network of people, a solid foundation. I have people in my corner that I can trust and can help me navigate through life. And because we have to have these principles, trust, acceptance, uh, love. We need these principles and stuff like that, and we need to apply them in all areas of our lives, and we have to apply them to others too. And because we talked about principles for personalities, and that's a whole hard one to do sometimes. But like we need all the help that we can get, and I always say, we talk about the multiple pathways of recovery, and I brought in my base to other things, just not to one entity. I had to, broaden my perspective also, and that's all through working on myself. It says, give yourself permission to struggle and believe in your ability to overcome. Strive to live purposefully, not perfectly, and never underestimate your ability to rebound from a challenge. It's common for people, coaches, and therapists in particular to think they should have all the answers when they don't. A seed of doubt is planted and they come to believe there's no recovering from a setback. Your life struggles are not a life sentence. There are a chance to set back, examine how you found yourself in prison, and discover you had access to the key all along. You just had to check in with a gatekeeper. That's funny. Like, yeah, that really rings true to me. Like, we're trapped in these prisons, right? But we had a key, right, the whole time, and like we're like the last one that knows it, because like for many many years, right, that like I've been incarcerated over 30 sometimes, right? And that didn't stop me from using, you know, the judges, the EMTs, the cops, everybody, my friends, my family, nobody was going to stop me, right? And my past has shown that it was ultimately up to me to stop me. And like I had to come to terms that like my way wasn't the right way, and still like when I think I'm right, right? Because we like to think we're right all the time. Um, it's just usually that causes more harm and chaos and recovery. So like when I can take a step back, and really reflect and assess some things, I have a better outcome. Instead of always reacting all the time. I can really think before I talk or think before I act. Um, and I can always run it by some whatever's going on. I can always talk with others to get a different perspective. Wasn't going to do that before. I always wanted to do things my way, when I wanted, how I wanted it. Listen to somebody, but not take the suggestions or really apply what they're telling me. So I really had to um, receive the help and apply it in my life. Um, and that's hard sometimes because we think we want to do things our way when we want it and how we want it. That selfish, self-willed nature of us and that self-centeredness, and we have to break that down on a daily basis. It says your life struggles are not a life sentence; they are chances to setback, exam. You found yourself in prison. All right, so we already read that. It says every experience is a good experience. Eventually, seize the opportunity to learn something new about yourself through inner reflection or from a gatekeeper, a coach, a mentor, a peer, and be patient. Sometimes the lessons we destined to learn take time to show themselves. Keep an open mind and open your heart. It's possible to be authentic and vulnerable while still being strong and reliable. Give yourself permission to embrace your perfect imperfections and live your life with purpose. Wow, it says, and it's possible to be authentic and vulnerable. That's something, I never experienced as being authentic, my true self. I always feared being judged, or, like that we talked about earlier, that chameleon. I always had to act a certain way to fit in. I always, had to pretend and lie what I was doing and what I was saying and where I was at. I was never free from myself. Always the lying, conniving, and always looking over my shoulder. And I could never be content or just okay with myself, right? I was never okay with my life, and it was a sad way to live. And it talked about being vulnerable. That's a hard one. That's definitely a hard one to be vulnerable. But you don't have to be vulnerable for everybody, but you have to be vulnerable with somebody. Somebody that you can trust. Is the one that you can talk to, and that can be. It talks about mentor, can be a sponsor, it can be a therapist, counselor. There's many people that you can find to trust, but you have to find somebody. I can't, go through life not relying and trusting, and um, I have to trust somebody. I have to rely on somebody. You know, it's important. It says, "How do you break free from your inner prison?" I'd love to hear about the ways you unlock the door to understanding and growth. So, like, we have to find out, like, how do we break free? We have to find out what works for you to get out of yourself. And that's what I've done in the process of recovery. I found that what works for me, and that's going to continue to the day I die. Like, life changes, recovery changes, right? Our circumstances changes, so we learn to navigate through our lives, right? But there's basic things that I do in recovery that I would have to do for the rest of my life, right? And I'll just share with you guys, like, I'm in a 12-step fellowship. I go to church. I have a God of my understanding. I do step work. I'm involved in service to the fellowship I'm in. I'm in service to my family, my friends, to my community. I'm a productive member of society. Um, I have people I trust and confide in, and I can call at any given moment, and I give the same energy back to them. Um, because I want to stay here. I don't want to use drugs and alcohol no more. Like, I've done that for many, many years. Now I'm trying to live a different life. Um, and I've learned, like, as for me, right, absence just is not going to cut it for me. I had to dig deep and really see what was really going on with me. Why am I using drugs in the first place? Or why do I always do the fight or flight mode all the time? So I was just never comfortable with myself. I was never comfortable with my living situation. I wasn't comfortable with my surroundings and with the people and with the world around me. I was just not okay. and we figure this stuff out on a daily basis. We have to work on ourselves and find out what's really going on. And when I came into recovery, I felt like I didn't have any assets because for many years I didn't use any of my assets. Well, some of them, but they were just in a negative way, right? I just flipped them, you know. And I do have a lot of assets, and like they do weigh over my defects. And like when I do have a defect or shortcoming, I can, I have a choice to work on them. Which as before, like my drug of choice of, you know, controlled my emotions and feelings in the way I dealt with things. So today, like I have a choice to like do something different and live life. We all have struggles. We all go through a lot of things in life, but like I know today, like I don't have to use drugs and alcohol to solve my problems because it's only now look at it, it's only a temporary fix, And think about it, it made things a lot worse. It didn't make anything any better, right? It was like running from my problems. Let me just use, right? So I don't have to deal with this, right? Yeah, you might not feel like you're going to deal with that in the moment, but that stuff is still there, right? The emotions and feelings will arise. Them problems still be there. I'm just prolonging what's really going on. And ultimately, we almost lose our life over that. But yeah, live with purpose by breaking out of your self-made prison. And we all struggle differently. It might not even mean drugs and alcohol, right? It can be a whole grand scale of things, right? Like has us trapped, and what we have to work on. And that's all through the recovery process. So like I said, my name is Carl. I'm a recovery coach here at Capital Recovery Center. Until next time, we'll see you later.